Can you hear me? All right. Hi, everybody. ERIKA alcoholic. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if this is high enough. Is it okay? Okay. All right. I don't know if you guys felt it with the prayer, the opening prayer. You guys, we did the Serenity Prayer. And there was like a... Did you feel that when they did the Serenity Prayer? I felt that, and I knew I was in the right room. So I just want to take a moment of silence because we've had a lot of frenetic energy, and I am not an independent messenger. So I'm just going to take a moment of silence and say a prayer that saved my life. I learned it at 2 years sober from a woman that was 80 years old and 40 years sober, Fatima Amatullah, and she was from the South, and she'd lived in several states, and at that time she lived in Mississippi, and we were in Denver with Don, and down at, forget the name of the correctional facility downtown that he was working at, and we were down there talking to the guys, and afterwards I was sharing my difficulties with her, and she taught me this prayer, set-aside prayer. So it has changed for me, and it changes every time I say it. It's not a rote thing. It's very much a moving prayer for me, and so thank you, God, for this day and this time together. Enable me to set aside everything I think I know about myself and what I think I need to be okay. Let me set aside what I think I know about other people and what I think they need to be okay. Let me set aside everything I think I know about steps in recovery and Alcoholics Anonymous, my life, my family, my home, AA, the big book. Let me set aside especially everything I think I know about you, God, that I may have an open mind and an open heart for a much-needed new experience today with your power, your love, and your way of life in and through my life. Guide my path, be a lamp unto my feet. Fill me with your loving presence, that it may flow through me and into the lives of others. Amen, amen, amen. Little humble bow to Clint Hodges at the end there. Love Clint. He taught me 6 and 7 is the end of the shucking and the jiving. And if you're not done shucking and shiving, you may not be at step 6 and 7. Just saying. So I have a sobriety date, December 30th of 1996. I'm very shocked by that date. I didn't plan to get sober. I really thought if I could just quit smoking pot every day, I'd be fine. I was 25 years old. I was 12 stepped into Alcoholics Anonymous. Somebody in Alcoholics Anonymous in my area that did not read, they did not use a big book very much. You couldn't find a book in meetings. But they did AA the best. Everybody does what they learn. Right? And that's something that I didn't learn till I was 4 years sober, dying of untreated alcoholism, doing everything y'all are talking about this weekend, saying I'm a recovered alcoholic and dying of alcoholism. So when my husband said, if you are a recovered alcoholic, you have no spiritual malady, it does not exist. If you were like, yeah, that's probably not you. Okay, spoiler. Sorry, column 1, ERIKA. Thank you. But if you heard that and you went, oh, and it whispered in you, he might be talking to you. Because alcoholism is a fatal chronic illness, and it is, Janet said it perfectly when she talked on 8 and 9, it's like a knife to my throat. And as my husband said in a story on the way here with Kurt and Linda in the car, and talking about his buddy calling their sponsor that they share and going to meet Mike at the cabin to go fishing. How is this my life? And it's amazing. And his sponsor said, because he used to be under a bridge. And his sponsor said, "The bridge patiently awaits." So I have a fatal chronic illness, alcoholism, and I did not come to you because I couldn't see it. I drank for 10 years. I started drinking when I was 15. I knew better than to drink because my dad was alcoholic. And I read the book, What's Drunk Mama, when I was a kid. I mean, my mom was in Al-Anon a little bit. I mean, she had her own trauma and issues, but she was not alcoholic. And I knew better than to take a drink, and yet the first time a drink came my way, I drank. And I drank for 10 years, and I drank as much as I could, and I just want to tell you how I got 12-stepped. I'm not linear, so I'm really sorry. I mean, it's just, I can't help it. It's just how God made me this way. This woman, my last ditch ever to control my drinking was to date a guy that his man is always involved. God help me. It was, he didn't drink, he didn't do drugs, he never had, he never would, never smoked a cigarette. I mean, he had a driver's license. It was so weird. And he owned a car, he owned a home. It was like a weird, bizarro world from where I came from, and or where I'd been living, I guess. Not where I came from, because my parents had those things too. But that wasn't where I landed at 24 years old when I started dating him. And he had this friend, and she didn't drink anymore, and she didn't do cocaine anymore, and she wrote rock music, and she played rock guitar, and she sang lead rock vocals, and she made CDs, back when we made CDs. And she was amazing, and her name was Mary Jane, and she was at a party. These people were like unicorns. They were like regular people. They celebrated each other. I didn't celebrate anybody. I mean, you all were shadow people. I didn't have money to buy you a present. I was in awe of these people. I watched them celebrate each other's birthdays, and I just watched them with wonder, like, what is happening? It's weird. And he had been talking to her for 6 months about my drinking, and I didn't know this. I had no idea. And so she approached me at this Christmas party and said, we should get together after the holidays. And she knew I was in school and I was a single mom, and we should get together after the holidays and have lunch. And I was like, yeah, okay. And that would be good. And I left that conversation not saying I needed help, not saying anything about me, but I left that conversation the same way I left a meeting where they talked about amends in my first year sober. Leaving the meeting having done nothing but talking about a lot and done nothing and feeling like I had worked the 9th step, right? I felt like I had done something, and I knew I couldn't change because I had just tried to stop drinking in October of 1996, and I couldn't. I got 2 weeks. That's the best I could do on my own. And she did this thing where, I mean, she called me. She said she was going to call me, and then she called me. It was like weird. And because I did not operate that way. I was surprised when I got the message on my answering machine, and so I called her back on her answering machine and said, tomorrow I'll be good. And I met her. She picked me up, and we went to this restaurant and Subway. And so many stories I want to tell you guys. I can't even tell you. They're just all like bing, 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 bing. And I'm like, stay where you're at. And halfway through that lunch, I don't know what came over me. But some voice whispered inside of me, and I don't know why I listened that day, because I never listened to a still small voice, didn't know I had one. But for some reason I heard that, and it said, if you don't do something different today, you're never going to do it. And it's like I could see myself 20 years down the road, waking up the same pathetic, and I say that with all the love in the world. That is not criticism. I hopefully awaited the day when I would get up off my butt and do something different. I mean, that's a paraphrase of what's in our book about how people look at us. I looked at myself that way, like tomorrow it'll be different and I'll be better, and I have so much potential, which means I've never really done anything, and like consistently in a row, you know, but I had so much, I could have been, and And I listened to that voice. I don't know why I listened to that voice, but I didn't want to wake up 20 years down the road. And I was a single mom, and my son's biological father was in prison. And, what I said to her, which was the truth as far as I could see it, which was, I smoke pot every day, and I want to know how you quit. That's what I'm doing. And what I didn't know was that I smoked pot every day because I was drinking every day before I was pregnant. And my eyes were yellow, and my gut was distended, and I'd been drinking every day for several years. And but then I had a kid, and I left his biological father when he was 2 months old. That was like a God thing. I didn't know about God, but I had a feeling, and it enabled me to leave. And luckily, my dad let me move in with him. And I'm a little vibrating, you guys, so it's very meaningful for me to be here. So I don't want to not tell you that. But that's all I could see, because I was not willing to let go of alcohol. There's no way I could. It's the only thing that made my skin fit. I didn't know that I was smoking pot so that I could stay home, because when I drink, I do not come home. And you can't be a single mother if you can't come home. Like, your family and your people, like, you don't keep your children that way. And I love my son with everything in me, although I had a heart that was, the Grinch says 3 sizes too small. Mine was like 20 sizes too small. Because when you sell your soul one day at a time for another drink, that's what happens. There's nothing left to love with. It's just so small. There's nothing left. And yet I loved him with all of that, everything in me. Oh, I'd failed at everything. I was going to be somebody. I went to school for opera, sang scholarships, star, lead, and everything. I was going to do something with my life. And at the end of my drinking, and I don't know what this has to do with AA, but I know that beauty has nothing to do with how you look. There is an energy, because I have always looked like this and I have not always looked like this. There's an energy of beauty that radiates from us, okay? And at the end of my drinking, I repelled people, and I was hot. And I repelled people. I repelled men, I repelled women, I repelled any sane person. I repelled them. And I just say that not because of things and persona things, but because of spirit things. My husband said earlier, shrinking, I don't know how you said it. Don't shrink. I don't know what you said, but something like that. We're not here to shrink, right? Anyway, she 12-stepped me, and I told her that and she knew how I drank, although there was really no singleness of purpose in AA at that time anyway, but she did know how I drank. And she told me, she didn't tell me she was taking me to AA. She just told me she was going to take me to a women's meeting, and there apparently was a living room group that was every other week, and and I was like, okay, I'll go. And I thought, oh, women, they'll be so nice to me. We know right? Like, we're not nice. But nice is the enemy. Nice is dishonest. We're not here to be nice. We're here to be kind, but not nice. The truth hurts, man. My sponsor always says we live in the delusion, and we become disillusioned. And the truth hurts, but it's the truth that heals. But it's the truth that splits us, But I got to tell you, I'm suspect. I've always got to understand that I'm suspect, no matter how free I am. My perspective, I am the last to know, you guys. I'm the last to know that I'm off. I'm the last to know. That's why we live transparent here. That's why We have to, Janet always says, live a life that's fully disclosed. Fully disclosed. You have to have several people in your life that know you and know what you're up to. My sponsor, Linda, she passed away in 2007. She used to say, ERIKA, if you're hiding, you're dying. Anything you're hiding, you're dying. You're dying on the, any little thing you want to put under a rock, you're dying. You cannot hide in Alcoholics Anonymous. It doesn't mean I have to share with all y'all my most recent fifth step that I just did a few months ago. Janet's heard it. Mike was on it. He's always on it. And it's not because of him. Just so you know. I think it's him when I write it, but it's not him. Darn it. Anyway, December 30th, 1996, my first meeting. And something happened at that meeting. I always thought I had this educational variety because I didn't have what Bill had or my husband had or other people have had, this bright light experience, you know. I didn't have that I was consciously aware of. I didn't have that I was consciously aware of. But I will tell you that something happened to me in that meeting because I have never been the same. I have never been the same since that day. You did something to me. You talked to me about me. And alcoholism is an illness that push back. It's like a 13-year-old. We have 4 boys. It's a 13-year-old, but we never grow out of that. It's normal for a 3-year-old and a 13-year-old to do that. It's not normal when you're 54. I'm just saying. It's not normal to constantly push back at life. It is not a way to live. Plants don't push back. The law of life is like I don't know if that's even the right way to say it, but words are hard. But what does not bend breaks in nature, right? So to be flexible and flowing, that's the way of life. But I am not like that. I'm rigid and inflexible when I'm in the illness. And on any given day, I just push back. I don't wanna. So anyways, I don't know what you did to me, but you talked to me about alcoholism and you talked to me about your experience and you talked about me the things that I knew, like when I had my son and I had no feelings at all and I knew there was something very wrong with me. I've always known there was something wrong with me since I was a little girl because you can see it in people's eyes. You can see it in people's eyes when you don't meet up to their expectations over and over and over and over again. You can't seem to behave right, and you can't seem to do it good enough. And it doesn't matter who it is, but you see it in their eyes. And I saw it in my mom's eyes, and my mom loved me so much, you guys. Oh. And I just remember looking at me sometimes like, what is wrong with you? And I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know. And anyways, I knew that day that I had that feeling about my son, that I had no feeling at all. I knew there was something wrong with me because I watch movies and TV shows and people that have babies have feelings. Everybody in the room's having a feeling. The doctor's having a feeling, for God's sakes. The nurses are, yay, cigars around. Like everybody's having feelings. And I had no feelings. It was like deadness. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. He saved my life. Because I hated everything about the woman that I'd become. I hated everything. The woman that alcohol asked me to be, one day at a time in a row for 10 years. I hated who I'd become. Absolutely hated. I would catch my face in the mirror, my eyes, and I'd hit things because I hated myself. And I kept saying, I'll be different tomorrow. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to go there again. I'm not going to do that again. And they're the problem, and don't do that. And I couldn't manage it. I couldn't stop. And he gave me something to live for and something to love greater than myself. And I wanted to be better for him, and then I couldn't. And I had a stroke. My husband talked about that a little bit. When I had him, and I think that was untreated alcoholism. I think that I did not have a drink for about 5 months, and I could not deal, and And I was in the hospital for about a week, and they had to rush me to labor and delivery because I was, diastolic blood pressure, 130s, 140s. It was very bad. That's a bottom number, by the way. It's very bad. I'm not a nurse person, so I learned these things. So, I got something in my hair. I don't know what that is. I just felt it. I don't know. Sorry. It's probably glitter. Anyways, glitter made me lose my train of thought. My son gave me something to live for, and then, when he was a year old, because I didn't do well. When he was 2 months old, I went out to the bar because it was my birthday, and I could not imagine having a birthday and not going to the bar, and I wasn't fully recovered from my stroke, and my mom was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, it's my birthday. And I turned 23, and I went to the bar, and the next morning I woke up in the chair, which was different. I came home to the little tiny apartment that his biological father had gotten us when I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, because we didn't have one before that. And I woke up in the recliner in my own urine. And I remember just being like, how could this have happened again? Like, this was supposed to be different. All the reasons, all the counselors that I'd been to, middle school, high school, the, reasons that they told me why I drank the way I did, my, suicide attempt where I drove myself to the hospital because I had this feeling about my one niece that I had that was 18 months old at the time, and I was 19 years old, and drove myself to the hospital because I thought of her. It was like a spiritual thing. I thought of somebody else, and I thought, I'm her only aunt on either side, and if I kill myself, this will become a part of her story, and I couldn't do that to her. And so I drove myself to the hospital, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know where I'm even at. But I don't know why I told you that, but probably because I never thought of anybody else ever. Anyways, I remember waking up in that chair, and the prime word is again, because if that kind of thing had only happened to me a few times, even 50 times in 10 years, probably wouldn't be as big of a deal. But it kept happening, that kind of thing, as a result of when you drink as much as I drink. My mom came to live with us in 2016, 17, I think it was. We were going through some boxes in the basement. Well, I was going through some boxes in the basement. Mike was sleeping. And I was going through some, because she was moving in and we had to make room, And when we got pregnant with the twins, it was kind of like a big thing. And so I was going through these boxes, and I found the papers that I had sent for when I was sober. Linda said, "Why don't you send for those papers to find out what happened to you when you were put inpatient, when you were up at the, with the scholarship and up at the school, and you tried to kill yourself and you drove yourself to the hospital? Find out what happened," right? And so I sent for those papers, and it takes a little bit of time. It took like over a month to get them. And by the time I got them, I was pregnant with twins. And so I just threw them in a file cabinet, and then that got put in a box. And I was going through these boxes, and I found these papers. And the first page, I drove myself to the hospital. I went and got cigarettes on the way. I remember everything about it. And the first page at the little hospital where they sewed me up said, patient is very mildly intoxicated, alert and coherent. A little drunk, that means she's a little drunk. She's a little drunk. And the next page was the bigger hospital, Allen Memorial Hospital across town, where because when you try to hurt yourself, at least back then in 1990, it was like October 4th of 1990, they didn't let you go home. I was like, no, really, I'm good. I drove myself here. They're like, no, I think you'll stay. And so they did my blood work, and it was 0.58. And I was like 45 at the time. I was just starting to use readers, and I was like, is this the right number? Like, I went and woke up my husband, didn't I? And I was like, does this say 0.58? And he's like, it does. And that is not normal, you guys. Normal people are dead or in a coma, right? And when I was first sober, I thought, I'm pretty young. I remember telling Mike we were driving to Galesburg, Illinois to hear Don Pritt's weekend workshop. And I was like, I'm young. Maybe I'm just young. Maybe everybody drinks like I drank. And he goes, maybe I'm not breathing. He'd heard my story. So glad I stayed. But anyways, gosh, something happened to me when I came here. And I'm not normal. I didn't tell you a couple other things. I'm really sorry, guys. I wish you had a better speaker. I have a home group, full measures group. I heard a lot of people talking about half measures. They literally avail you nothing. My sponsor doesn't think that's very fair. She thinks it should get you half, but it doesn't, so sorry. But my group is full measures group. We have 3 weekly meetings. Friday night, the OG meeting is 7 o'clock, Cedar Hills Community Church, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. If you're in town, come see us. We would love to have you, 7 p.m. Central. It's a great big book speaker meeting, and it's fantastic and wonderful fellowship, wonderful recovery. I'm the new GSR of that group. I was very reluctant. I did not want the job. I thought somebody else should have this job. I've already had this job. And I didn't. I got out of general service when we had our extra children. Don't tell my 3 extra children that that's what we call them. Well, he doesn't call them that. I call them that because it was not my idea to have them. I thought we should be done. I was like, are you sure? Do you like sleep? Because it's over. Like, I don't think we should do this. But Mike was in general service, so I didn't do any more general service, and I do my service in other with sponsorship and home group level, and that's it. But I didn't. So this is my first dip back into general service, which I encourage everybody to do general service. A lot of women I sponsor in general service. Somebody's got to keep their eyes on Alcoholics Anonymous. It's our deal. So I'm not very good at it. I feel like a newcomer because I haven't done it for so long, like 20 years, I think. I'm the newbie in the room, but it has not stopped my mouth from opening up and being like, that is wrong. Why are you talking? You are interrupting. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But somebody had to say it. It had been going on for an hour. Anyways. And we have 2 Wednesday night meetings, 8 o'clock Central. One of them's on Zoom. You're welcome to come, Full Measures Group, 8 p.m. Central. It's a big book discussion meeting. We have a topic person, and then we have a discussion. And it's very good. And then we have the same format in person. We just, when we went back in person in August of 2021, we did not want to do hybrid. So we wanted to keep our other one because we have people from all over. Stephen comes most weeks, and we have people from Canada come, and Florida, and just Georgia. A lot of people from different areas come. So anyways, it's a great home group. I'm glad to have a home. And I have a sponsor, and I work with women. And I'm very grateful to have sponsorship. I really want to thank Dano so much for the kind invitation. This weekend is very special to us because it is our anniversary, and thank you, Camille and Danny, for the beautiful flowers, and the committee, and thank you, everybody. Because it's a very big deal to stay married when you have two alcoholic people. I mean, you heard David's story on, right, last night. Like, we're not well people. We don't come here well. And the fact that we're still together 27 and a half years later and 21 years married is nothing short of a miracle. And so I just want to thank Dano and the committee for the kind invitation. I mean, it really means the world to us. We love Fellowship of the Spirit, and my husband is so important to me because he introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? He was at my first meeting. I asked him, "What'd you think of me?" And he said, "I thought, too bad she's a newcomer." I don't do a very good mic voice. I used to do it much better 20 years ago, but I don't do it very good anymore. But anyway, we didn't start dating that day, nor was he pursuing me, nor was I looking. But I remember we met up again at when I was 11 months sober, and we've been together ever since. Met at a meeting. I didn't want to go to that meeting, but my son's biological father, or his mother, so his paternal biological grandmother, was 6 months sober. And I was 11 months sober. She wanted to see my son on Thanksgiving. And I didn't really know her or trust her. And I personally did not get sober to hand my son over to somebody that's, a little suspect, So I said, well, I will go to the 9 a.m. meeting at the club, and if you want to come and spend an hour with him at the club, then I will meet you there, and I'll go to the meeting, and you guys can hang out for an hour. And I don't know what happened to her. She was around for 3 or 4 months, and then that was 27 and a half years ago, 28 years in November. So I walked in the meeting, and I was 10 minutes late because I was down talking to her, and Mike was chairing the meeting. Ba-dum-bum, that's like how our life goes. He's chairing the meeting. And I'm like, 10 minutes late. Yeah, when Heidi says, "David, if you could be better," I'm literally the one saying, I've said this to my husband, "Babe, I would be better if I could." And you know what he says? "I know." I'm like, that is not the right answer. You're fine just the way you are. That's the right answer. Anyway. And he does say you're fine. As a matter of fact, when we were first dating, he had on his, he had a little red Grand Am. And he used to pick up new guys all the time, right? He's always got new guys in his car. So you put down his visor with the mirror, right? And he's got that little sticker on it that says, "You are looking at the problem." And man, I knew he was the guy for me when I read that, and I was like, ah. And he goes, "Oh, babe, that's not for you." And I was like, pitter patter. Oh, that's right. You got it. Anyways, I remember our first Fellowship of the Spirit. Mike had went in 1997, and when I was 6 months sober, but he's at my first meeting. I didn't see him again until 11 months sober, right? And so I went in 98. That was my first Colorado thoughts. And he had told me about Don, and Don married us. Don married us August 28th at Mike's brother's log home that Mike built for his brother. And it was the most magical day. And there was so much, it was tangible. My sponsor, Linda, was there. Don was there. He had his eagle feather, and he hit us in the face with it and the chest. You know how he did. It's a little aggressive, okay? And I'm always crying. I'm always crying. Whenever Don's talking, I'm crying because I was new, right? I was new, and everything he would say would just pierce my soul, and I knew he was telling me the truth, but I knew that I had no idea what he was talking about, And so I would just cry, and so he would always say to me, "No, why are you crying now?" And I'd be like, "Ah." And I'm walking down the aisle, and tears are just streaming down my face, and I remember him putting his hand on my face, wiping my tears and saying, "Now, why are you crying now?" So it's a special weekend. And to be here with you guys. I remember walking into Fellowship of the Spirit and my first year, and I'd been in a big book study with Mike for a few months. But I was not teachable, guys. I mean, I'm sure you couldn't see that coming, but I was not teachable. And a little mouthy and a little know-it-all about stuff I knew nothing about. Embarrassing, really, but I'm telling you the truth. That's where I was. That's what I'm here to do, is tell you the truth, what I was like. And I remember we got there, and we were walking into the conference. This was when it was at Silver Creek, and walking into the conference area, and everybody was still setting up. It was around noontime, and it wasn't time for the conference yet. And I thought Don was the only one in the hallway, but I've been a little more nervous to come here than usually. I get a little nervous because you never know what you're going to say. And I mean, I'm just not linear, and I just wish I did better than I do. But I just pray and I just share, and this is the best I got. And so it is what it is. But I just was a little more nervous coming here, and I was just kind of praying about that the last couple of weeks, because usually I can pray and be like, God is. I got a tattoo, God is, so I don't forget God is. Like, that is the great reality. God is. That is all. And I can remember that God will be there on that morning or that evening when you speak. You don't have to worry. And then in the past, it would just go away. But the last couple of weeks, it's just been kind of vibrating in me. And I'm like praying, like, what is going on? What is this, God? That's a prayer Don gave me. What's going on here, God? What's this about? Curiosity. What do we need here, God? What's this about? So I'm praying this prayer, and the other night I'm washing my face and getting ready to pack, and I'm thinking about David being here and Tom being here. They were at my first spots, and their wives have been instrumental in my life. And I started thinking about Don and the fact that it was our wedding anniversary week, and that he married us, and how he changed the course of our lives and the lives of generations. It's just not a small thing. And I thought about him and walking in there, and I mean, I remember what I was wearing, because if you're ERIKA, you remember everything about me. And I remember I was wearing this red dress and walking down, and there's this expansiveness when you're in the presence of people. And I don't know if Don was the only person in the hallway, but he's the only person I saw, right? Like, I was thinking, Don's the only person in the hallway, and then I was like, wait a minute, he might not have been the only person in the hallway, but he's the only person I saw. And we walked, I don't know if you remember this, but he was towards the middle end of the hall there, and we walked, and he watched us walk towards him the whole way. And I got to meet him, and spent the weekend at my first Fellowship of the Spirit, and I heard things I'd never heard before. And I was in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd never heard these things before. And I got very curious, and I cried a lot for like 8 years. I couldn't stop crying because I was so twisted up. And maybe it was only 7 years. I don't know. But it was a while, guys. I mean, I just would go. We were going every month, every few weeks, every couple months, like whenever somebody was near, we were going to a big book workshop, because nobody was talking this way in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And people are like, you're really making too big of a deal. And I'm like, I'm just reading the book. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what are you doing then if you're not doing But I don't know. He changed our lives. We went to, we stayed with Don a few days that first year, and we usually came, years that came after, we usually came early and stayed a few days with him, a few days early. But this first year, we stayed after. And on Monday, we went to Dario's. We went to it started with a C, where he worked, remember? William Street. Okay, it didn't start with a C. I lied. William Street. That was it. And we went there in the morning, and then we went to Dario's for lunch. And I was making a joke about, ha, ha, ha. You know how we talk in AA? We're so sick. Oh, ha, ha, ha. I'm so sick. Ha, ha, ha. And he looked at me and just like, psh, like across the table. And it like pierced me, you guys, his eyes. And he said, "ERIKA, you're not as sick as you think you are." And I was like, what? And one of those things that you feel here, but you don't know what he's talking about. But you know he's telling you the truth, so you just kind of hold on to it here. You're just like, okay, I believe you. I know I don't know what you're talking about. I know nothing of what you're speaking of, but I'm going to hold it here. A couple years later, we were sitting in front of the Einstein's Bagels, and Don was, I don't know why I'm telling you these Don stories, but I just miss him so much. And he changed our lives, We're sitting in front of the Einstein's Bagels, and Don's driving, and I'm in the passenger seat, and Mike's in between us in the back, but he's kind of poking his head up between us, and we're talking. I mean, I think I was talking. I'm sure I was talking. And Don says, "ERIKA, one of these days you're going to realize that there's just nobody left to impress." And the tears just streamed. I wasn't crying, but they just streamed like a river down my face, because I knew deep within myself that I had no idea what he was talking about. I knew there was no way I could ever comprehend with my very smart mind. I'm not making that up. I was very smart when I was younger. I think I've lost a couple of steps. Might not be a bad thing. But I knew I could not figure out what he was talking about, nor did I try. I just let it rest in my soul. So anyway, I don't know why I told you all those stories. I spent a whole lot of time not talking about my story. Well, I guess that is my story. One of our wedding vows was the one that I remember, because it's been the hardest, is I let go of all that holds me back from loving you. And if you're in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know that that's kind of the thing that you have to do. It's kind of what you come up against. So I drank for 10 years. I got brought into Alcoholics Anonymous by the result of somebody trying to help me, and I stuck around. I got a sponsor. I did what you told me to do, but we weren't really working steps. And gosh darn it, I hate telling this story. God just snuck it right in. I thought I was going to get past it, and then here it is again. Dag nigget. It's not for me. So I'm 6 months sober, not working steps. I want to work steps, but I don't really know that we're just talking. My sponsor's just talking to me like a friend, and I don't know that that's not sponsorship yet. And 6 months sober, my son, Chance, that's his name, Chance, and he's 6'5". He's a delightful human being. Tomorrow he's leaving to go to Missouri with his buddy to go on a 240-mile, week-long biking trip. And I'm like, how did you practice that? I mean, do you know what you're doing? Do you have water? I'm like, I'm sorry, I know you're fine. I'm just your mother. And I said, he's been with his girlfriend for about a year, a little over a year now, and they live together, and they have 2 little kitties. One's a foster. He loves kitty cats, and they both love kitty cats so much. And so he's got these 2 little kitties, and I'm like, what will Jill and the kitties do without you? And he says, perish, sadly. He's just the sweetest. I think Mike fell in love with him before he fell in love with me, I swear. But I'm 6 months sober, and he was 2 when I got sober, but 45 days sober, he turned 3. So he's just over 3 years sober, and I learned that day at 6 months sober that he didn't like things mixed together. I used to say I made casserole, but it was a tuna tetrazzini, tuna helper in a box, and that was the best I could do. And I threw some peas in it because I thought that would make it healthier because I didn't really know how to cook. Not really Betty Crocker over here. And so I'm like doing my best to be a mom and, be sober and rah-rah, and I give him this little bowl of food, and I live in a HUD housing, rented apartment, very nice place. I'm not complaining. It was very nice. I felt very blessed to not be homeless, because if you don't have a home that you pay rent for and that you're like obliged to, that you're like staying with them and staying with your mom and then staying with your dad, and then that's what I did for many years, and I didn't realize till I was 3 years sober that I was actually homeless. They call that homeless. I had to be a social worker with a degree to find out I was homeless. I didn't know that. I was homeless. So I was actually very grateful to have a place, right? So I'm not complaining about it, but it was rented carpet. And he did this thing, and they even have a saying about it, don't cry over spilled milk, like it can be cleaned up. Like, I love my son more than I love the carpet, yet I do not act like that. Like, lack of proportion, lack of the ability to think straight. If that were just about alcohol, that would be so freaking great. Would it not? But it's a very big deal for me to not act like a crazy person with my small child. And I act like it's not a big deal at all. And he threw that food on the floor, and this rage welled up in me. And I hit him so hard he fell off his chair. So sad. And I kind of whited out a little bit. And I remember seeing his little face, and he's holding his hand to his cheek. His cheeks are red, and he's tears streaming down his face, big blue eyes, like beautiful. He's a baby, 3 years old. He's a baby. And I'm like, what just happened? And I had the experience where I knew that there was nothing that little baby could have done that could have caused that rage in me. And I'm a blamer, I'm a projector. I got a problem, you are the problem. And you are the problem with me. And AA in 3 words or less. It's not them. And Tom loves that. He said, I got to make sure I said that. And I'm like, if I remember, so that one's for you, my friend. It's not them. And but that rage welled up in me, and I hit him, and he fell, and I just was like, what just happened? And I had the experience that our book talks about, but I didn't have the luxury of somebody reading this book to me. I didn't have the luxury of somebody reading, so our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, which means it was already there. But I knew that in that day that he was not the problem. And I saw that rage had always been with me since I was his age. I sat on the corner when I was 4 years old, maybe 3, 4, 5, somewhere in there, packed my little bag and sat on the corner because I knew I didn't belong there. And I didn't know about dying. I didn't know that I wanted to kill myself necessarily because I didn't know about suicide. I didn't understand that. But I knew I wanted out as a little girl. And just this rage of growing up the way that I grew up in an alcoholic home and never feeling like I fit in. And I know not everybody feels that way. A lot of people feel very comfortable in their skin, and I just never been that person. And that's a day that I knew I needed to find out what is wrong. And I'd been going to these meetings, and you guys are talking about these steps that are listed on the wall. And I told my sponsor, I need to work the steps. And there's a lot of things people do what they're taught. And I said, I need to work those steps because if that's what the solution is, I need that. I really feel like I need to do that. So she reluctantly worked the steps with me. They used to say things like steps get people drunk. They really said that. 4-step gets people drunk. I mean, alcoholism gets people drunk, you guys. God, through the steps, saved my life. I mean, we have to have some self-searching and honesty and transparent living, but we get to have a new life here. And I worked the steps. My sponsor always says, you work the steps poorly until you can work them well. And I worked them poorly, and I followed directions as best I could, but my first 4-step was a victim's account of my life. I did get a lot of those past sins and really shameful things that I never thought I'd admit, and a lot of victim stuff out there. I got that out there. Really crappy inventory, though, in the terms of, like, inventory. This is a Rebound big book, by the way. It's not some other weird text. So it's one of these, but different binder. It's my original book that my sponsor, Camille, sent me when I was 3 years sober. And my sponsee got it rebound for me. Very kind, because it was all falling apart. God, I lost my train of thought again. Where was I at? Participation. 4-step. Oh, I worked the right. And so, it's not a very good 4-step if your amends list is 0. And your sponsor says, oh, you're so honest, but you have no amends. I was not honest. Had no idea what I was looking at. And I didn't know when she said, you can't do it wrong, that you had to follow directions. Victim's account of my life and whatever. So I did the best I could, right? And I always tell women I work with that you don't have to worry about doing this perfect or right, because you're going to have plenty of opportunities. Like, if you're like me, you don't wait till you get 10 people that you're resentful at. You get 1 or 2 and you're writing. Like, you can't stick with that. So I'm writing every few months because somebody, right? Unless it's the same things that I've already been writing about, and then I really got to practice some 6 and 7 and 10 and 11, but I could talk to you for 3 hours on that topic, and we don't have time. But I met my husband at 11 months sober, and I had a spiritual experience the night before we met, and I was willing to do whatever it took if I didn't have to be her anymore. It was like I had this feeling, and I said a prayer, and I'm like, what's going on here with this weird feeling and this, seeking outside of myself? And I was watching a movie, and I started seeing my life, and I saw 2nd grade, and I saw 5th grade, and I saw 7th grade, and I saw like high school, and I saw young adulthood, and I saw all of these things where I was seeking outside of myself to be okay with men and fantasy world and like really not normal things. Like 2nd grade, I'm walking around this 2nd grade. We moved out of town for a year because my dad drank every day, and they thought if we moved, 20 minutes out of town, that he would stop drinking every day, because my parents were the real OG hippies, and they thought for sure they would not drink every day. Well, that didn't work. We know the story. It didn't work, so we moved back. But I know where I was living and why it was 2nd grade, because that's where we lived, in this little town. And I was walking around this little town in 2nd grade, like my boyfriend is going to pick me up, and in his car, I'm 2nd grade, and my boyfriend drives in my fantasy world. And that's not normal. And this pattern, right? And I was on my knees at 2 a.m. the night before Thanksgiving, and I'm like, I am willing to do whatever it takes so I don't have to be her anymore. And then I saw my first 11 months sober. And I was different, you guys. I mean, I was not dating anybody. That's a code word, by the way. I did not date. But I was not dating anybody. And that was a big deal for me, that I wasn't dating anybody. And but what I didn't know, because we're the last to know, I don't see myself very well. And what I didn't see until that night was that I was going to this meeting because that guy was there, and I was going to this meeting because that guy was there, and I was going to this meeting because these guys were there, and they were all coupled or married. And I was stealing attention and affection from men in Alcoholics Anonymous that had wives and girlfriends and partners and all of that, and I didn't see it. And I was so embarrassed. Oh. It's It's like alcoholism is a horrible illness because you keep breaking your own heart and you don't know you're doing it. You're the last to know. And I look back and I just wanted to die. Could I just disappear? I cannot let anybody see me. Like everybody. So when you see her, please accept her, because I was not accepted. But I couldn't have been any better than I was. I didn't even know. And if you would have told me, we don't talk to each other about each other. You don't come to me and talk to me about me. You get this. I mean, my sponsor does. She has carte blanche. But we don't do that. You talk to me about you and I hear about me. It's like magic. It's like mystical. It's like this algorithm that happens underneath Alcoholics Anonymous, that God uses our self-centeredness in a way to get to us. You talk about you and I hear about me. But if you talk to me about me, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear it from here and change this. It does not work that. I have tried. I've tried to behave. As a matter of fact, I will die behind just do the next right thing. Do you know that is not the quote? It does not say that. It is missing the biggest piece. Humbly rely on him. I did not know how to do that. And I was on my knees sobbing for 20 minutes like, God, please help me. What do I have to do so I don't have to be her anymore? I can't get good. I am so effed. And I'm willing to be alone for the rest of my life. And I said a prayer, I didn't know prayers. I didn't know God. I didn't know spirituality. I didn't know energy work and all the things. I didn't know anything. And God gave me the words, if you want Chance to have a father and you want me to have a spouse, and please prepare him for me as you're preparing me for him. I didn't know those words, but those words came to me. And I came into the meeting and my husband was there. And after the meeting, he followed me down the stairs. He denies he did it, but he did. He followed me. Chance was in the basement, so I was going down to get Chance, and there's a lot of people. It was Thanksgiving, so they were having a gathering. So normally there would be nobody in the basement. And I went down there, and I'm chasing this little boy, right, around the hall. And he's... every time I turn around, Mike's there, And he came walking in the room at one point, and our eyes met, and this voice whispered down the back of my neck, I'm going to marry that man. And I was like, whoa, no, you're not. You're going to be alone for the rest of your life if you have to. I meant it. I wasn't looking. And I asked Don about that later, and I'm like, what happened? How is that possible? Because I was not looking. I did not want him. I'm like, fix me. I can't do this dude thing anymore. I'm so done with men. Stop the insanity. And he talked about willingness, which I did not understand. But he said, when the willingness is there, the work is already done. The shift has already happened in you. When the real willingness in there, when you're really willing to be changed. And in 6 and 7, my sponsor works with me a lot in 6 and 7, and I use 10 and 11 as vehicles for 6 and 7. And, I don't let women that I sponsor just run from 6 and 7 into 8 and 9 and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I was wrong, because nobody wants to hear that. If they've been living with you or working with you, and you're doing it again. They don't want to hear, oh, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done that. Amends means to change, right? Amends means to change. And when the willingness is really there, we have this thing that we can do is we can keep it as a real piece of business with God, or we can leave it at the level of complaint. And what do you think I usually do? Complaint was my whole life. Complaint, complaint, complaint. And what I had to learn to do in Alcoholics Anonymous, it took me years to do, which was keep it active as a real piece of business with God. And what that meant was when I wrote my inventory for the first several years, 8 years or something, I would write my inventory and I would think this magic wand God was going to come and ding, dong, and I was just going to be magically lifted up and be changed and never to sin again, go forth and sin no more. And that never happened for me, just so you know. I would put my inventory back on the shelf because I said my 6 and 7 step prayers, and I'm like, I'm good now, and I go make my direct amends, and I'm really sorry, and I was really wrong, and I'm very clear on the directions and amends. So, and then I don't know why the second column is the same, but maybe the first column's different. 3 months later, somebody else is ticking me off because nothing's really changed in me. Because I didn't know how to make it a real piece of business with God. I just wanted to complain, and I wanted some magic wand God to come and remove my defects of character. I didn't want to actually set down those survival skills and those weapons and walk away from them. I wanted to keep being that person and just blaming everybody for my life. And so using 10 and 11 as a way to keep those things on the altar each day, not working on them. We're not working on them. But I have a list that I made at the end of the 5th step, returning home. We quiet for an hour. It finishes up your 5th step. It's not 6 and 7, just so you know. Not that anybody's wrong. You can do it whatever way you want to do it, but saying the next page it says, now we're at step 6. By the way, I didn't figure that out. My sponsor told me. 5 minutes. So being able to use that list of what I don't like about myself, the attitudes, the energy, the feeling that wells up, right? The words that might come out of my mouth, the conduct that I don't like about myself, and then what my values are, and have that as a working document. I'm going to be with my kids today. This is really hard for me. This area, God, please help me. God, please help me. God, grant me strength to go out from here to do your bidding. Gosh, there's so much I want to tell you guys, and I feel like I've talked about nonsense for an hour. But I have a few minutes left, so I just want to tell you that I have the best life I never wanted. I never wanted to work this hard. I would have missed it all. I would have missed it all. I didn't want to have more kids, and my kids have made me a better woman than I am capable of being. You have to be very not ERIKA to be a mother, right? Like, just very not how I was made. And I'm not built for motherhood. And I love my kids. Our twins are 19. I'm the shortest in my house, and I'm 5'10". Mike's the second shortest. He's 6 foot. Our youngest is 15. Chance is 31. And they're good kids. They didn't grow up in active alcoholism. They grew up with a mother that was constantly saying, I should not have said that to you that way. Here's how I should have said that. I did that with Chance. I screamed at that kid every day and didn't notice it. He was a baby. And I got sober and I saw it. And then I found women in Alcoholics Anonymous that I loved and trusted enough to tell them the whole truth. Because if you just call somebody and say, I yelled at my kid, that's really not the thing. You have to say what you said. And I'm just saying because I watch people half measure that all the time. If you don't tell what really hurts, what the real words are, you're missing it. We are actually to practice a genuine humility, and that means the whole truth. Not just, I yelled at my kid. No, I said these words to my kid. That is horrible. And I would usually start those calls with, I am so embarrassed to tell you this. And I'd cry, like, this is me trying, and I suck. And I am trying. And I went from not noticing at all to noticing not being able to stop, to noticing like a few hours later, to noticing right after I was done yelling, to noticing in the middle of it I was yelling, to noticing before I yelled. And it took like a year. And it took calling people every time. Maybe not the same day, maybe the next morning, but calling people every time. Women that I loved and trusted that were not going to judge me, that were not going to gossip about me, were not going to criticize me. I mean, maybe they were gossiping about me, but I didn't know. They loved me. And they told me the truth. They didn't pat my butt into the grave. They weren't like, oh, everything's going to be okay. They were like, I mean, it ain't going to be okay. If you can't do something different, like, you better be praying. And that's how Alcoholics Anonymous works. Like, I can't really talk about steps like linearly because they're just they just all touch each other, and they're all the same movement, and they're all moving us towards this third step. Everything in 4 through 12 is moving us towards this third step of turning my will, this animated life, and to the care of this power. But if I don't have honesty in the first step, I'm going to miss it, because alcoholism is a knife in my throat. And I just went through the steps again not long ago, because our youngest is 15, and he was having some troubles at school, and he was getting all Fs, and I was very troubled. And he has some learning disabilities, which is very new for us in the last few years, and it's been very hard for me, and a lot of control and anger, and wanting my husband to do things so that I didn't have to, and a lot of laziness coming out, very embarrassing, and I don't know why I just told you all that, but maybe because I'm currently, I continue to do these things, I guess is why I need to tell you that. Because I haven't arrived anywhere. I'll never arrive anywhere. I have alcoholism. And I do live in a new and wonderful world, though. I do live in a new and wonderful world, and one of the best things that my husband ever did for me is that he always let me be exactly where I was at. And he never told me how to work steps. He never told me what to do. We have a couple safe times that we've both been able to say to each other, just a couple of times in almost 28 years, maybe you should call your sponsor, or when's the last time you went to a meeting? But literally a couple times, because we both do AA. Our children have the unfortunate reality to have two parents that have chronic fatal illness of alcoholism that they have to treat every day. And I used to think, God, my poor kids, like I don't get to spend as much time with them. And I was one Saturday, and I'll tell this story and then I'll be done. I mean, I hope. I was going to pick up this gal from the treatment center on a Saturday morning, and our kids were little, and we had a teenager and little kids, and I'm getting home about noon because I had taken her to the meeting, and that's not the right word, but we worked in the book for a couple of hours, and then I'm driving home, and I'm like, oh, it's so sucky, like my poor kids, half the day's gone, and my poor kids, and I shouldn't be doing this. I need to spend time with my children. And I get home, and it's spring, and we're cleaning out backpacks, and I mean, that's the hardest job, cleaning out backpacks. Good God. Why do we have to do backpacks? And I'm cleaning out their backpacks because it's springtime, and I find this picture that Jameson, one of our twins, had drawn. And he was probably second grade or something, I don't remember. By the way, I was always the round one in the pictures, by the way. They drew a picture, and I'm always round. I'm like, hey, why am I round? And they're like, I mean, you're a little round. I was very round then. And I was the only round one. And it said on there, I got a picture of it in my phone, something to the extent of, I never knew I could have this great of a family as I do, or something like that. And it was like the message of God to me that my children have the parent that they need. And the only reason that I can be a parent and be an employee and work 50 to 60 hours a week and still be there for my kids and for their tears and their difficulties and their celebrations is because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's not because I do it sometimes. It's because I do it today. And I try to take as many calls as I can, but I sponsor a lot of women, so they can sponsor a lot of women. I do not have to sponsor everybody, but I'll take a call. But I don't have to sponsor everybody. I have limited time, but I do try to help people because I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'll never be able to repay the debt because you've made me a better woman, that I'm capable of being on my own. I did not come to you this way. I am a light today. I'm a woman of power, that God has carved out this great capacity of love in me, and it's unrecognizable. I didn't do it, It's really kind of cool, and I don't own it. Like, I know it's not me, I'm so clear that I've been putting it here for so many years that I know that when I say that I'm a woman of power, where it comes from and where it comes through. It's not me. So clear on that. Thank you so much for letting me share.